Welcome to the Fierce and Fit Mentor Podcast. I'm your host, Clarice Yao, a holistic health coach dedicated to helping women over 40 achieve their fittest, fiercest selves. Each week, we'll dive deep into the unique challenges of menopause, including belly fat, weight gain, muscle building, hormonal imbalances, and more. These episodes are recorded live from my free Facebook group, Fierce Women Sculpting Powerful Bodies and Champion Mindsets. Be sure to check the link in the show notes to join our incredible community and access free content, challenges, and resources designed just for you. This is the Fierce Woman community where we sculpt powerful bodies and champion mindsets. Today's topic is hormones, why guessing backfires after 40. Hormonal signaling is a completely different game. Hormonal signaling requires incredible amount of context, incredible amount of understanding of different things that will interact, this affecting this, like domino effect and like a puzzle piece. So this requires context, it requires experience, and it requires someone to understand hundreds, if not thousands, of case studies in order to really understand how the nuance of hormones come together. That's why this topic today is really interesting, because a lot of women, when they guess on their hormones and what's happening, this is the biggest trip up. Okay, let's dive into it. Hormones, why guessing backfires after 40, the difference between knowing and getting results. In that phrase specifically, a lot of you are trying to gather information, but there is a big difference between information and, as I said many times, implementation. So that's why there's a difference between knowing and getting results. Okay, so if hormones were so simple, most women wouldn't still be struggling after years of doing everything right. The issue with your body, okay, most of the time is not more effort, it's about interpretation. So, what do I mean? It's like you have to know how to interpret what's actually happening in your body. And it's not just like, I have to work harder. I just have to work out harder. I just have to like cut more calories. It's about interpreting it better. Now, I said this earlier already, but like the reason why I understand this to a very, very deep level is because not only, I always say I'm like a hormone specialist, because it's like 5+ years of like researching over 5 years. So it's like a master degree. And then on top of that, it's like I have coached hundreds of clients through this. So I have hundreds of client case studies. Like I have a case study of estrogen dominance. I have case studies of multiple insulin resistance. I have case studies of people who are just stressed and cortisol dysregulated, like Tracy Norman. I told her, you're not insulin resistant, you're not estrogen dominant, you're just cortisol resistant or cortisol belly. So I have like a lot of different case studies to pull from. And the thing is, the lens at which I am going to coach my clients and kind of help you guys understand is, what is it going to take to drop belly fat, restore energy in your body, and build muscle after 40. This is my ultimate goal. But in order to do that, you need to have different phasings, so like steps. We talked about macros, inflammation, and then today hormones. Hormones are not something you fix, it's something you communicate with. So I want you guys to kind of think about it this way. You're not trying to fix your hormones, you're trying to communicate better to your hormones. Put that below or type that below. Trying to communicate better with my hormones. This is the key. Okay, so put that below. It's not about fixing your hormones, it's communicating with your hormones better. Now, the first week I talked about macronutrients. Okay, so I want you to think about this. Macronutrients are the inputs. You must have the right input in your system: food, nutrition, all this. Otherwise, nothing's going to work, right? But then I talked about inflammation last week, and inflammation is the blockers. Okay, so I want you to kind of put this in a system for yourself. Macros was the input.
inflammation was the blockers. So I needed you to understand you need the right input in your body. If you don't have the right macronutrients, you cannot lose fat and build muscle. But number two, if your body is inflamed and it's being blocked, you cannot move anything forward in your body. So then where does hormones sit in this 3rd week series? Okay. So hormones is the messaging system. Okay. So it is like the inputs, the blockers, and then where's the line of communication, like the roads. I once said that your hormones is like the hormone highway for women. It's like a highway. And if those highways are blocked, traffic jammed, you're in trouble. Most menopausal women have traffic jams in their body, and that messaging system, the highway, the hormone highway for women, the communication center is where we're having trouble. But like the macros and the inflammation, I want you to think of it like this. The macros is like the cars. Yeah. So some of you who are not really having good macronutrients, I see that, for example, I'm gonna use Fran as an example. She really wants to build muscle, but if her car is only made of like, I don't know, I don't know cars that well, but like a cheap type of metal, and she wants to run like a Mercedes Benz and have like amazing muscles and everything in her body, her car itself, structurally speaking, is not actually proper. So that's why one of the things for her, I know we just had a conversation about what she can eat and what she can't eat right now. And what I want her to focus on is about making sure the car is a good car, if that makes sense. Good car. But like actually having the right alloys and metal and high system functioning car. But you have to understand, if the system functioning of the car, even if I build the best Mercedes Benz, okay, but as she backs up the driveway and there's like blockages and like potholes and like construction things blocking her, which is inflammation, she can't go anywhere. So I'm hoping you guys understand this analogy, because I'm trying to give you context to why the hormone discussion today is super, super important. So before you even get on the highway, ladies, which is your hormone highway, let's make sure your macros are proper. Your car is built like a Mercedes Benz so you can look and be your best self. But you also need to understand how to take away those blockages on the road so you can actually get on the highway. Today, it is super important for you to understand, if you're listening and you're super new, there are some of you that are super new and you're like, I don't even know what inflames my body, or I know my body's inflamed, but I don't really understand it, or I have no idea about macros, protein, carbs, and fat and distribution. Then you also need to understand those and not just go to your doctor and say, can you prescribe me, like, I need more estrogen or testosterone in my body. So again, my stance is about holistic wellness. And there's a lot of women who go and get shortcuts. I need this, give me a Band-Aid, give me hormone this, give me this injection, give me this, without actually first doing the proper things. Like, do you know your macros? Do you know your inflammation? And then we can talk about where the hormone signalings are coming in, which is today's live. All right. So I had said on my Fierce Woman Digest that your hormone is a system. And when one switch moves, 5 others respond. Okay. 5 others respond. So I'm going to first give you the very like Cole's note of like, this is what happens. And then I'm going to go into a really complex breakdown for all of you. So let's just go into estrogen, okay? So in menopause, when estrogen declines, cortisol becomes more reactive. Insulin sensitivity drops, okay? Meaning you're not as sensitive to the insulin hormone. Thyroid signaling slows down. Your progesterone drops lower, so your stress becomes more high, intolerant, and your leptin and ghrelin becomes less reliable. So I'm going to go into detail about this, but the thing is, I just want you to see it as a snapshot. When estrogen declines, kind of what happens in your body, right? It affects cortisol, it affects insulin, it affects thyroid, it affects progesterone, and affects your hunger signals like leptin and ghrelin, right? So the way I want you to think about this is when estrogen drops, it's like your body is on an airplane and you are facing the airplane control panel. Okay. The airplane control panel is incredibly complex. And if you don't know which switch to hit and which switch to dial forward and backward, it's going to be either red alert on the airplane or complete airplane crash. Okay. So this is what happened with Leslie's body and Tammy Linton. And this is why both of them, when they came to me, they were at a wall. They could not change their body anymore. So I want you to think about estrogen like not as a dimmer switch. So like if estrogen drops, it doesn't mean that your the lights dim down. Okay, it's not one process. I want you to think of when estrogen drops, it's like taking away the conductor from the orchestra. Okay, so you take away the conductor from the orchestra, and now a whole host of things are going to happen in your body in that orchestra. The wind instruments, the percussion, the all of those types of things. Now everybody's like, where do we do? Do I hit the drum louder? Should I blow my horn here? Like it becomes a chaos in every section of the orchestra. Okay. So we're gonna go through 7 different effects of estrogen drops so you can understand this. Okay. So number 1, estrogen is a signal amplifier, not just a sex hormone. Okay. So it amplifies a lot of signals within your body. Isn't just like a signal, right? It actually has to bind to receptors. So the estrogen hormone needs to bind to receptors. And then once it binds into the receptor, it triggers a downstream signaling into cells. Okay. So the downstream signaling is often where things get complicated. So when it drops, okay, the receptor expressions get blunted, meaning, for example, there's not as many receptors being open to estrogen and there's not as much uptake of that hormone. So the receptor expressions are blunted. Receptor responsiveness actually drops. So, like how strongly cells respond to the hormone binding, those signals also drop. And the signal crosstalk between the hormones also drops. So, meaning the binding of the hormone to the receptors. Think about like, oh, a great one is Wi-Fi. You guys ever been with a poor Wi-Fi before? So if you guys have been in poor Wi-Fi, it's like it's annoying. You're like, my phone doesn't work. Why? It should work, right? So that's what happens when estrogen drops. Imagine poor Wi-Fi in your body. Okay, so a lot of you have poor Wi-Fi in your body. The reception, the receptivity, the crosstalk between the apps are not happening, and it becomes frustrating. The next thing is that, like when estrogen drops, okay, for example, your cortisol, normally estrogen buffers the stress response, but when estrogen drops, okay, it cannot buffer that signal as much anymore. And the same cortisol signal that before your body had, let's say, I experience the same stress, I go to work, this is what is happening, nothing changed in my life. That same signal now is louder in the body. So cortisol gets amplified more because the reception was lower. So it couldn't help you control that cortisol, right? Another example would be insulin. When estrogen drops, estrogen supports insulin sensitivity. So insulin sensitivity means estrogen actually promotes the cell's response to take up sugar. But when estrogen drops, then the cells cannot take up the sugars and as well, like it's not diabetes yet, but like it cannot respond as well. So with less estrogen, insulin has to work harder to achieve the same effect. So your body now has to produce more insulin due to the estrogen drop. Okay, so again, so the estrogen is affecting insulin, is affecting cortisol, thyroid. Okay, so when estrogen drop, Estrogen influences how thyroid are transported, converted, and received in the tissue level. Okay. So if your estrogen drops, your thyroid is not is not uptook into your tissue as well, and it cannot be properly converted in the tissues. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later, but the lab results that you have are slightly inaccurate because they testing what is your thyroid in its conversion form, or like let's say T4, T3, and how much thyroid is there, but it doesn't show how the tissues are uptaking the thyroid. But it is known that estrogen affects the thyroid hormone and its uptake into the tissue cells, and this will affect your energy, your ability to like even build muscle, that type of thing. So is again the estrogen affects a lot of things. Okay. Estrogen drop also influences neurotransmission. Now, neurotransmission is serotonin, dopamine, GABA. These are neurotransmitters, sorry. And so when estrogen drops, it really affects all these types of areas. So estrogen receptors sit directly in the brain, the hippocampus, the hypothalamus, the amygdala, the prefrontal cortex. So these areas regulate stress response, emotional regulation, appetite, stress, motivation, and reward. Okay. So when your estrogen drops, a lot of things happen in your body and your brain. Okay. And this is why we hear it a lot from women. I got to get on it. I don't feel so motivated. I feel like I can't really go and do it. I need more motivation, or I need more, like, I just don't know why I can't get myself to the gym. Like, we hear this a lot. Yeah. So let's talk about some of these neurotransmission. Serotonin affects mood, calm, and satiety. It's the feel good hormone, but in the way of like calm. Okay, serotonin. So estrogen itself increases serotonin synthesis. It enhances serotonin receptor sensitivity, and it slows serotonin breakdown. So when estrogen is functioning well, it pairs well with serotonin in the sense of it helps serotonin and help you feel good. When estrogen declines, serotonin signal weakens, mood becomes more reactive, anxiety and low mood are more likely. So women that tell us, I'm anxious, I don't know, I just get angry or get upset, I have emotional eating can increase. And so it's not like suddenly you got older and you became less disciplined, or like something is wrong with you in that sense. I think what I want you to understand is not just psychological or willpower, it's neurochemical. And when you can understand that what actually is happening in your body when you don't feel motivated, or you feel like I need to go to the gym, or I can't work out, or I'm not pushing as hard, I don't have the same energy. I mean, as a coach, there was a lot of coaching to get you guys to go to the gym and get the routine in place. And a lot of it is, again, it's not just psychological, it's neurochemical, it's understanding how to get that neurochemical signals into the right positions. Okay, the right positions. So anybody else here feel lack of motivation or lack of drive? Anybody else on here? So another neurotransmission is dopamine. Now, serotonin is more the calm, feel good. They kind of work together, okay? But like dopamine is more like motivation, drive, reward, going hard. So dopamine is another one.
If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. Listening on Spotify, tap that 5-star rating. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave a quick review. It really helps the show reach more women.
So let's talk about dopamine. So estrogen supports dopamine production. It enhances dopamine receptor signaling. When estrogen fluctuates or drop, motivation feels harder to access. That's exactly what a lot of you said here. Motivation feels harder to access. Reward feels less satisfying, and food becomes the dopamine instead of doing things in exercise. Food becomes a stronger dopamine seeking behavior, and training motivation drops. So a lot of women tell me, especially ones who used to work out a lot or they have high self-sufficiency, they said, I used to be really good at this. I used to be like so motivated. I don't know what happened, but I know I can do it. I can get back to the gym. And that loss of excitement, again, isn't necessarily just you. It's reflective of that estrogen dropping in your system. Okay. And another neurotransmission is GABA. So GABA is your calm nervous system break, often associated with sleep and stuff like that. So this connects with progesterone because estrogen and progesterone interplay together. Progesterone metabolites strongly support GABA. And so when estrogen and progesterone drop, GABA signaling again weakens and your nervous system is more easily stressed. Okay, so like when your GABA drops and estrogen and progesterone drops, your body gets more easily excitable, more easily stressed, more a little bit like, again, connected to cortisol. And you often, anybody struggle with sleep, you struggle with sleep. Your sleep is not as good, your sleep is lighter, you wake up less rested. And even if you sleep and don't wake up, your watch says you have less deep sleep. Anybody struggle with sleep, put sleep here as well. Because GABA drops, anxiety and rumination increases. So typically as you age and you go into your 40, 50, 60, there's typically a little bit more anxiety, a little bit more rumination, a little bit like, I don't know why, I feel a little bit more stress, because stress tolerance drops after 40 even if life doesn't change. And so for yourself or for anybody, sometimes your friends or people suddenly have like weird mood swings. Just to give yourself a little bit more grace, there's a lot of things happening in your body at this point and juncture with a lot of changing hormones. Okay. That is why I say, like, for example, knowing how to control your cortisol is really important, because if you don't know how to control the cortisol in your system and all of these neurotransmission, things get really, really tricky really fast. Like you feel off all the time. Okay. And another thing that estrogen affects is estrogen decline affects glucose uptake, lipid metabolism, and mitochondrial efficiency. So, in layman's term, of estrogen declining, your carbs that you eat do not function the same. You cannot eat the same type and amount of carbs, but it doesn't mean you don't eat carbs. You just have a different type of glucose uptake. Your lipid metabolism is greatly affected by estrogen decline. So how fast your lipid process and breakdown, so fat drop process, like how fast that is also affected. And your mitochondrial efficiency is about like your ATP centers, your intercellular structure, how much cell energy you have. So estrogen decline affects all of this. And so I want you to think about this. When estrogen declines, other hormones don't just change in amounts, their signals are received differently. Their receptions are deferred due to now this estrogen like master regulator that has caused all the following different hormones to shift. This is a layer of complexity I want you to understand. It isn't just the other hormones. I'm going to talk about the other hormones in a second, but it's like the master regulator hormone has changed. So there's a host of everything else that changes with it.
If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. Listening on Spotify, tap that 5-star rating. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave a quick review. It really helps the show reach more women.
So let's continue with estrogen. So estrogen loss changes how the brain interprets stress. Okay, I already mentioned this. So it would interpret stress higher. Estrogen decline alters glucose handling at the cellular level. I already talked about this. So at the cellular level, it cannot uptake sugar and glucose as well. So knowing how to eat and the carbs and the carb loading is super important. Estrogen affects thyroid signaling beyond lab values. So I just said it to Kat. Estrogen affects how your thyroid shows up in your body. Okay. For example, your thyroid hormone binding, it needs to kind of go through the tissue to have a level of responsiveness, right? So if your thyroid doesn't get absorbed properly or used properly in the tissue level, then it's not effective. It's less effective at the cellular level. So this is where you'll struggle a little with energy, you'll struggle with more stress, more inflammation, and potentially a little bit more oncoming of belly fat. So this is why many women will kind of say that they feel slower, like slower in the sense their body feels slower, they feel colder, they feel less responsive to training, even with normal labs like the thyroid situation. Progesterone loss with the estrogen, like I talked about, causes your nervous system to stay elevated, like which I already mentioned. So your stress tolerance is not as high. Estrogen decline causes you to have more fat storage and fluid retention. So again, estrogen, if it is off, it will cause you to store fat more preferentially in the abdominal area. It will cause you to have more fluid imbalance and histamine response. This is where you feel puffier or your body is holding a lot more water and just inflammation throughout your body. Okay. So this is kind of why I say like your belly fat inflammation. We always come back to belly fat. Okay. Because belly fat is a big issue for a lot of women. Your belly fat by nature, I said last week, is inflammatory. If you have belly fat, you're inflamed, right? But I want you to have another level of understanding on this is that belly fat, in order to properly change this, you have to, because of all the stuff I mentioned here, you have to understand how to create the hormone balance in your body, the how to reshift and re-regulate the hormone signals in your body to actually ensure that your belly can fully drop. Again, please look at Leslie's photo. You'll understand what I mean. Like now, it's like so snatched her waist. Why? She was so highly cortisol dysregulated before and nothing was working. And she's hit a wall. But look how small her waist is now. And this is because it's like, for me, understanding which of the 6 types of belly fat she has are 6 different kinds of shapes of belly fat and what kind of hormone signal is dominating her at that point, and then coaching her on this. Okay. So, how many of you guys, like, I mean, put below if you're like, you need to lower the belly fat, and it's like, I want you to like kind of have your own like help yourself understand that to lower belly fat is not to eat less, and it's not to like, again, it's not just like I need more, I don't know, testosterone patch on me or something like that. It's actually understanding the hormonal regulation you need in your body. So put below like hormone regulation. If you want to understand better how to drop your belly fat, put hormone regulation, because this affects the switches in the system. So put hormone regulation. If you feel like I have belly fat, I need to understand better how to get those switches to work better. So this is starting to make you guys understand your hormones better and about like, I need better hormone regulation. Okay. This is the key to dropping belly fat. And I already mentioned this, but like leptin and ghrelin don't function well when estrogen starts to drop. Okay. Those hunger signals, ghrelin, leptin, they will become, hunger cues become louder, satiety becomes less clear, and cravings feel more urgent. And this is the thing is, your ghrelin and leptin are very sensitive hormones. They're affected by energy, availability, stress hormones in the system, sleep quality, inflammation, and like I said, estrogen. So the leptin and ghrelin signals that are like hunger hormones and everything like that, hunger and fullness hormones, they become inaccurate. I said this before. So I have a lot of women who tell me they're not hungry. And Oshona, you know this, where it's like they tell me they're not hungry and they don't want to eat, but yet they still have cravings. You guys ever been there? You're like, I'm not really hungry, no, but I still kind of want to eat this. So hunger and cravings are not totally the same. Okay. They relate to the different neurotransmission and all of that. So, you ever been like, I'm not really hungry. I mean, I know I should eat the vegetable and the protein, but I'm not hungry. But I feel like I need to nibble on some Ritz crackers. Okay. I'm sure that that is some truth here, right? Who here has been like, yeah, I know like my hunger signals are kind of off. I'm not really that hungry, but I kind of am. I want to eat this or want cravings. So hunger and cravings are not the same. And your ghrelin and leptins are dysregulated with the hormone changes. Sometimes I feel like people, again, just are like, either they're going to white knuckle it, like, I can't have these cravings, I can't eat it, or they're going to take some sort of, appetite suppressant, or they're going to, like, do something to try to make themselves not hungry or craving things. And I think this is where I really want to challenge a lot of women is like, it's not about like white knuckling it. It's about understanding, why is your body sending you this signal? Why are you suddenly wanting sugar? Why are you wanting that? I don't know, put some of your craving things below. Why are you wanting that donut? Oh, Shone, I'm joking. Oh, Shone. But like, why are you wanting this? It's a signal. There's something that you need to rebalance in your system about cravings and your hunger and ghrelin leptin signal, rather than, hey, I'm going to eat this pill or I'm going to take this thing so I can stop my cravings. And this is where, like, again, instead of band-aids, we need to go to the root of the issue, rather than I just put a band-aid on top and then forever I need to take GLP-1 pills, I need to take Ozempic, I need to take all of these types of things to control it. If you understand what types of foods you need to eat, the right balance of it, do you need to take these pills and take these shots and all of this type of stuff? And yes, I challenge that, because I hear it all the time. Women saying, oh, I'm taking this right now to suppress this hormone or to suppress my hunger. And I'm like, is that healthy for you? To do something like that, right? And to just question some of the ways of what our society promotes, which is quick fixes. Okay? Put no quick fixes below, ladies. No quick fixes.
If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. Listening on Spotify, tap that 5-star rating. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave a quick review. It really helps the show reach more women.
So now I'm going to dive into 5 different types of hormones. Now, not that I didn't talk about it, it's just like trying to explain this in the right way is very complex. Again, like there's another massive section on estrogen I took out. I'm like, there's no way I can even keep this under an hour and a half. Like, it's crazy how much estrogen affects in your body. And so I'm going to kind of give you that much to think about. And now we're going to dive into like the other surrounding hormones, but they all connect back to estrogen. Okay. They all connect back to estrogen. So we're going to talk about, the core hormones. Okay. So let's actually go to cortisol. Okay. Yes, of course. We're going to talk about the C word. Okay. The C word, cortisol. So cortisol is your stress and survival hormone. Stress and survival hormone. This hormone is elevated by undereating, overtraining, poor carb timing, and decision fatigue. What do I mean by all of these things? For all the women watching, cortisol is probably going to be one of your biggest enemies if not understood correctly. Okay. Cortisol is a big enemy for aging women. Again, I'm going to reference a short, like, caveat. Okay. Because science gurus are like, excuse me, cortisol on a good context is good. Small amounts is healthy. It helps you get up. Cortisol can help you run away from the bear. Cortisol helps you sometimes get, a little bit of short motivation, and a little bit of cortisol in your training helps you signal building muscle. But I do presume most of you have followed me long enough that I'm not saying that short bursts of cortisol, acute short burst, is okay. But it is the chronic cortisol. This is the big issue. When chronic cortisol is in the system, I want to go back to the 4 points I said. I said under eating, overtraining, poor carb timing, and decision fatigue. Most women do not eat enough food or not enough of the right macros. I'm going to use Kathleen as an example because Kathleen has successfully completed phase 1 fat loss in the transformation program. But now the situation is muscle building. How much does she want to actually build in her body? Because she's hit this point, she looks good, she looks like lean, that's good. Do you want more muscle? Do you want to look more sculpted? And if she does, she cannot stay at her current macros. That's the key. She needs to adjust that, right? So it's under eating, not only in caloric, but a lot of times women are not fueling it with the proper macros. Overtraining. Again, Kathleen is another really good example. I keep using her now because Kathleen loves working out. Like you, Kat Wilson, she loves working out. So she's doing my workouts plus working out with some of the people in the gym, and she's doing double a lot of things at the same time. And so overtraining is going to spike your cortisol. Your poor carb timing, where you put your carbs, can affect your cortisol excretion, especially when it comes to timing it properly. That affects sleep. Okay, so carb timing as well as decision fatigue. So decision fatigue, if you don't know and you're constantly guessing, should I put carbs here? Should I carbs put later? Should I go less more here? And if I eat this much, will I gain weight? And how much less should I have? The decision fatigue is going to cause you a lot more stress. And so this cortisol stress is very tricky because with high cortisol, you are going to have more belly fat, more water retention, and poor sleep. Okay. So you have to remember this: cortisol doesn't care how clean you eat, it cares if your body feels safe. I want that to land for all of you. Tammy and Leslie were massive hormonal imbalance and dysregulation. And what I just said here, their body was not feeling safe. Their body was dysregulated, and their body basically was like, everybody lock hold, don't move. All the hormones, all the signals were in lock hold, and they could not move. Leslie and Tammy, in order to break the lock hold, I needed to make their system regulate and feel safe again. That safety is important. Otherwise, nothing I could do could shift it. Leslie said, I eat clean, Clarice. I listened to you for 2-3 years on the lives. I tried to apply what you said. I tried to do this. I tried to go to the doctor. They gave me medication and nothing worked. She was continuing to gain weight. She continued to have a lot of belly fat, a lot of dysregulation in her system. And the key was that I had to shift certain things in their body so that their body actually went, oh my gosh, I feel safe again. I can actually like release fat and I can move my system. Okay. So put that below for yourself. Okay. Put it below you. Okay. Cortisol doesn't care how clean you eat, it cares if your body feels safe. You need to internalize this, menopausal woman. If your body feels not safe, I don't care how much you work out. I don't care how much you say, I eat clean, Clarice. If you have belly fat and dysregulation and you cannot build muscle, it's telling me your body is not feeling safe to make the changes. And this is why hormone safety is really important. Hormone safety. Okay. In coming back to cortisol, just remember this: same woman, same calories, different cortisol response depending on timing and stress load will mean different results. So you could be on the exact calories and the exact same macros as another woman, but you could potentially have different results. I said 2 women can be the same, have the same calories, same macro distribution, but radically different results based on their cortisol regulation system. Okay. So I'm going to give you a real live example. So Leslie is an example where she was so cortisol dysregulated. She's getting migraines all the time. And she just felt horrible. Like if you were to talk to Leslie, I do want to bring her on to an interview. She felt horrible. all the time. And she ate clean. She tried to eat clean. She tried to eat well, but she felt horrible. So when I first started coaching Leslie, first, I actually needed to adjust a number of things where I looked a little bit more at her supplementation. Now, this is rare. I rarely do this. The ones who actually work with me personally, no, I don't talk about supplementation near the beginning because it is more about macros at the beginning. But due to Leslie's situation and some of her and massive migraines she was getting as we were shifting things, like I told you, her case was a bit complicated. I needed to actually touch supplementation with her nearer to the start. Whereas you can ask Kathleen. Kathleen, I touched her supplementation later near the end of her program. And obviously I found that she was taking some things that was probably no longer needed for her body because we fixed the issue naturally with food. And so Kathleen's situation was radically different from Leslie's. And so this is why I say your cortisol regulation, where your hormone levels sit, affects what I give you and where I start with you. This is super important because I have a lot of women say, so should I now go get this supplement and take this and that? I'm like, no, don't worry about the supplements yet. Let's fix the food first. But remember what I said to you about Leslie. Leslie's food was more towards the healthy end, but she was massively dysregulated, gaining weight, feeling horrible, getting massive migraines. So my approach to coaching her had to be very different. And this is why I said guessing will backfire on you. If you guess and you try to manipulate it yourself, you're really playing with the airplane control switch, because one person, one lady's hormonal profiling will look radically different from another one. And how I coach a Kat Wilson will be radically different than the way I coach Debbie, than I coach Leslie. Is very different. And this is what I want you to understand with real live examples, because this matters to all of you. Because a lot of you listen to lives or podcasts, which are good, and you go listen to Doctor Who and Who, which is amazing. I love that you're learning, but you cannot take an information and apply it flat to your situation. And this is where most women start to get confused and they backfire a lot of protocols on themselves. Number 2, hormone insulin. Insulin is the storage and access hormone, okay? Insulin, as you understand, is the hormone that helps you uptake sugar into your cells and into your muscles. As you know, at your age and with estrogen dropping, insulin resistance rises, because I spoke about estrogen before. Insulin resistance is not the same as diabetes, okay? You may not have diabetes, but you may have insulin resistance, okay? A lot of women say, oh, I got my blood work done. I'm not diabetic. I'm good. I'm like, do you have belly fat? They're like, yeah. I'm like, then more than likely you're probably insulin resistant. More than likely, not all the time, but more than likely. And so diabetes, A1C levels, okay, A1C levels is not the same, or does not, even if you're like, I'm sort of within range and my test results show that, you still could be insulin resistant. Okay. And if you're sort of insulin resistant, then these are some signs. The signs are you show up as fatigue after meals, carbs are not landing right in your body. You're like, carbs are kind of weird. I don't know. I feel like I gain. I don't know. I don't understand carbs. Carbs are landing weird in your body and having night cravings. Do any of you experience this? Do you feel fatigue after meals, or carbs are not really working the right way in your body, or night cravings? Because you can put it below if you've experienced one of these, but that may show some insulin resistance along with belly fat. Obviously, belly fat is a high likelihood you are resistant in some form with insulin. Now, you might be insulin resistant, but this part you guys are going to really be like, wow, really? Clarice, this is cool. So insulin sensitivity can be trained, but not forced. Okay, so listen to this carefully. Insulin sensitivity can be trained, but not forced. So that means I can teach and train your body to become more insulin sensitive, but you cannot force this. So what does this really mean? In order to train your body to become more insulin sensitive, you need to teach your body how to better use carbs. So there's a process of how to train your body to better use carbs. You have to train your body to learn capacity. And this is where macro dialing comes into place. You have to train your body on how to build better capacity for those carbs. And you have to also understand the role of resistance training and building enough muscle mass. Now, a lot of women work out, but not every woman builds muscle. And the role of resistance training to build muscle is the one of the keys to actually better insulin sensitivity. But if you don't work out properly and you say, I love working out, but there's not a lot of muscle on your body, you're not bettering your insulin sensitivity. In fact, you may be raising cortisol and worsening your insulin sensitivity. That's why hormones are complex. Because you could be exercising all you want, 5, 6, 7 days a week, but you are causing more cortisol spiking in your system, worsening your carb tolerance because you're not understanding how to properly train your insulin sensitivity up and how to properly train the carb sensitivity, the carb capacity, which is trained, not forced. And your insulin sensitivity comes from proper macros so your body feels balance in its fueling. So it understands I have the right fuel, I can calm down, I can actually uptake carbs properly. So I know this part's a bit complex. Again, it could be a whole live on itself, but I just want you to understand a lot of women do this. They want to control carbs. They want to lose weight. They want to lose their belly. So they force it. They force it through cutting carbs. They force it through working out harder. They force it by doing a lot of like quick things. And this will make it worse. And it will cause your whole hormonal system to dysregulate more. This dysregulation makes your system incredibly resistant and it will resist you. As those of you in plateaus know, it will resist you. It will resist wanting to change. It will want to gain more weight when you're like, I'm working out harder. Why am I gaining weight? I'm working out harder. Why do I have belly fat more? This does not make any logical sense because the truth is not logical. Your hormones is not so logical. It is a complex highway that is moving in 2, 3 directions. So I want all of you to understand that when I say the hormone guessing backfires on your hormone is because a lot of women don't understand they need to train your carb capacity. You need to train your insulin sensitivity, not just by blind forcing it. If you get good at this, it's not simple, it's a process, you will be a master at your body. Carb training, insulin sensitivity training means you create better metabolic flexibility. And in your teens and 20s, maybe early 30s, it's a given. You have metabolic flexibility. As you move into late 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, your metabolic flexibility drops. And most people do not treat nutrition like a training process, but I do. And this is why my clients have the best results and they are able to get flat stomachs and they are able to maintain because the thing is, it's about training your body for the right signaling. And I say to a lot of my clients, just like Kathleen has now achieved fat loss phase 1, but she can't stay there if she wants to build more muscle. She cannot just say, I'm just going to sit at this macronutrient because what? We need to train her system up to take more levels of carbs and change macros so she can build muscle without backfiring back into gaining weight or gaining belly fat. For some of the ones who have already achieved some level of success, you can maintain, which is fine. But if you maintain and you want to move, you want to move to the next level, you just can't without changing those macro distributions. Okay. Cortisol, insulin, and then estrogen. I talked about estrogen at the beginning because it's the master hormone, but just to briefly go over it because it's part of the core 5. Okay. So again, if Estrogen fluctuates, okay? It will, again, change fat distribution, water retention, and it will create more emotional volatility. And this will potentially create both possibly estrogen dominance or estrogen deficiency in your body. But they are not necessarily the same, but they can create confusion in your body. Okay, so estrogen dominance in your body can show up even if you have declining estrogen levels in your body. All estrogen dominance means is that in relation to progesterone, your estrogen levels are higher than progesterone because progesterone drops as well. Now, if estrogen levels are higher than progesterone, you potentially could have an estrogen dominant situation. But this estrogen dominant situation does not mean you have high estrogen. You can have very low estrogen, but be in an estrogen dominant situation. Whether it's deficient or estrogen dominant, the issue is when your body is in an estrogen kind of dysregulated state, it really disrupts your regular rhythms and hormones, like I mentioned already, like it affects progesterone and other things, and it will send mixed signals to your brain. So the mixed signals will actually cause problems with signals in the brain that affects metabolism and stress. So the estrogen, as I talked about earlier, it like really affects all the signaling in your brain and affects your cortisol, your insulin, and your thyroid output. So a lot of women, again, just to kind of summarize this, is estrogen doesn't just decline, it loses its natural rhythm. So when it loses its natural rhythm, again, two women the same age, they can have completely different estrogen patterns in their body, and they will need different protocols to fix that situation. An estrogen dominant situation like Leslie requires a different protocol than someone who is just estrogen deficient, maybe not estrogen dominant at this point. So we need to know that you have to use different approaches for different profiling. If you want to have a better understanding of your hormone rhythm and how to fix that hormone rhythm, I want you to put hormone rhythm below. All of you will have lower estrogen, but it's about understanding how does this estrogen interplay with the cortisol, insulin, and all those other hormones I talked about. Okay, so hormone rhythm, if you want to have better understanding of the hormone rhythm in your body.
If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. Listening on Spotify, tap that 5-star rating. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave a quick review. It really helps the show reach more women.
Number 4, thyroid hormone. So the thyroid hormone is your metabolic regulator, okay? Regulator will affect a number of things, okay? So stress, inflammation, and low calories will suppress conversion, okay? Stress, inflammation, low calories will suppress conversion. Listen to this carefully, okay? So those are your like, yeah, I think cortisol is a problem. I feel inflamed or I'm eating low cal. Then that means your thyroid will be suppressed, okay? So again, you cannot out train or out diet a suppressed thyroid signal. So if your lab results show natural thyroid levels, but you feel off, you feel like something is wrong with your body, then you need to get someone who knows hormone signaling to help you, because the lab results are not accurate, and we need to fix the thyroid signaling. Okay, so I'm not going to go more into thyroid because we're running out of time, but just know that thyroid is a tricky one because it connects with estrogen, it connects with stress, and it connects with inflammation. Everything I said before. So if you're like, I'm gaining weight, my thyroid is not functioning well, but doctors are saying my labs are normal, I need help in this is where I come in. And I know some of you already put that. I will reach out to you. This is about understanding how they all interplay together. Number 5 is leptin and ghrelin, which I said earlier. So these are hunger hormones. If it's dysregulated by chronic dieting, poor sleep, and stress. So hunger isn't a willpower issue, it's a hormonal feedback issue. And so I already went to a lot about leptin, ghrelin before. I just want you guys to understand those are the 5 key hormones that we're looking at in an interplay or on a map. Okay. And so let's actually talk about why doing it yourself will backfire. Okay. So, like I said, there's a trap out there. Is the trap is we live in information overloaded society. Whereas back in, early 1900s, even 1950s, even 1980s, no one had access to the type of information we do today. With the onset of internet, with the onset of cellular phones, with an iPhone in our hand, with apps, with now AI, with whatever, chat GPT, you are not short of information. We are in an information overloaded society. So, what is the trap then? The trap is you are given too much information and you don't know which direction is correct. And you start trying to do it on your own and you try to cut carbs here, or you add workouts here, or you eliminate foods here, or you copy protocols. Now, it's funny because I smile and it's okay. I get told by some of my clients, they get messaged by some people like, how did Clarice work with you? How did you get results? How did you like? It's so funny and it's okay. I get that. I appreciate that. But you have to understand that if you're going to someone else to ask how they achieve the results, but they do not have the same hormone profile as you copying another person's protocol is like stabbing yourself in the back. If you try to do a protocol based on estrogen dominance, but you have a thyroid and insulin resistant issue, they are not the same protocols. What if you don't have any of those? It's just a stress cortisol belly. That is different, completely different. So this